Well, a pleasant good morning to members of the Small Business Association, colleagues, and friends all. Thank you so much for joining us today for this month's webinar as we continue our discussion on critical topics, important themes that we believe will benefit our small business community. I'm Dr. Lynette Holder, CEO of the Small Business Association of Barbados, and I am here to moderate this session for us for the next hour. For those of you who may not be aware, who may be joining us for the first time, this webinar is a part of our monthly educational series where we focus on a topic of interest for the small business community. We have a subject matter expert who will come on in a few moments and share with us on the theme for today. All of our webinars are recorded, so in the event that you miss an aspect of it, fear not, you'll have the opportunity in a few days to go on to our website, our YouTube channel, and you can preview this session again at your leisure and pleasure. At the end of the session, we'll post in the chat platform a link inviting you to answer a few short questions about the session today. This is our evaluation tool. It allows us to gather critical information on the session today, information that will help us to improve as we go forward. So as they say in the airlines, those of you who travel often, I'm sure could identify with this. Sit back, relax, and enjoy for the next few moments the session that we have planned today. Now, much has been said in the business community and at large about renewable energy, the green transition, trying to encourage our businesses and the population at large to, pay more attention to the use of renewable energy solutions in their homes, in their businesses. But as I'm sure you'll agree with me, it takes funding, it takes cash to care, as one former prime minister once said. And so it's important to be able to access the resources, the financial resources to help us transition to a more energy efficient and green infrastructure, if you will. And so we thought that for the month of May, we'll focus in on this topic and to help us understand how we can invite and encourage small firms to access the funding that is available to help in their greening of their businesses and their operations. And so today's session is going to focus on financing the green transition, improving access to the Energy Smart Fund. And many of you may not even be aware that there's actually a program known as the Energy Smart Fund. It is now in its second iteration. And I recall some months ago, a while ago actually, having a session in our webinar series on this fund and the fact that not enough micro and small firms were actually applying to the fund. This is what the data says. And so it's now in the second phase, and we felt that it's important to really encourage our micro and small businesses to access the fund that's available, to access these financial resources to help in that green transition. And so today we have Mr. Marion Moore. Mr. Marion Moore, he's a business specialist in the Sustainable Energy Investment Program. This is with the Ministry of Energy and Business, and he is here on the call to help us understand how is it that we can access the funding that's being provided through the Energy Smart Fund, but more importantly, how we can, as businesses, look to transition our enterprises to being more sustainable and using renewable energy as a part of our business operations. A little bit about Marion for those who may not know him. Marlon is a sustainable energy specialist based in Barbados. He has over 15 years of experience in the energy sector. He has worked on the development of sustainable energy policies and implementation roadmaps for 4 Caribbean countries. Marlon has also worked in Latin America, several of those countries, including Chile and Ecuador, on short-term assignments to support the deployment of sustainable energy technologies. Here in Barbados, Marlon has supported the Ministry of Energy and Business and the Inter-American Development Bank on the development and execution of the Sustainable Energy Framework for Barbados since 2014. So he's been working in this program for some time. It is my pleasure, therefore, to invite Mr. Marlon Moore to come on, maybe on a Zoom platform. So I can't say take the stage, but in a sense, he's taking, the stage, and that he's coming on now to share with us on this topic of financing the green transition, improving access to the energy smart fund that's available. Marlon, good morning and welcome. Let me give you a warm SBA welcome. Your first time on the platform with us. We're very, very glad to have you in our session today. Over to you, sir.
Thank you. Good morning, Dr. Horla. Thank you for your warm introduction, and good morning to all of you. I hope that I do my best to execute what we plan today, and that is to encourage persons to invest in renewable energy and energy efficiency, particularly those small and medium enterprises. So, without any further ado, I should get into my presentation. I'll just share my screen. Okay. Can everyone see my screen?
Yes, we can. Go right ahead.
Yes. Okay. So today, as you rightfully said, Dr. Holder, we're talking about the Sustainable Energy Investment Program. And this is part of your webinar sessions on, for business. So I should like to start by explaining to you a little bit about the program and how it is being executed. I won't bore you with the details, but just so you have an idea. The Sustainable Energy Investment Program is actually the formal name to what we are calling the Smart Fund, and it is executed by the Ministry of Energy and Business. They actually have a project unit that is dedicated to facilitate these programs. The project unit actually is guided now by the wider initiatives or objectives, I should say, of the government of Barbados. And so their key guiding light is obviously the national energy policy of Barbados. So if I can tell you a bit about that, our national policy, 2019 to 2013, proposes 100% renewable energy and a carbon neutral island state transformation by 2030. So it's quite an ambitious target. Some of the key objectives are to make Barbados energy independent, as we mentioned, as well as to reduce the cost of energy to Barbadians. So in order to do that, some of the key goals now will be to provide reliable, safe, and affordable, sustainable, modern, climate-friendly energy services, zero domestic consumption of fossil fuels. We want to export all of our hydrocarbons produced locally. You may know that we do have a local hydrocarbon industry. So the objective of the country is to export what we will not be using here. Maximizing participation in individual and corporate distributed renewable energy, minimizing the outflow of foreign exchange, because at present we use foreign exchange to purchase our hydrocarbons, and create a regional center of excellence for renewable energy. Barbados we have a very mature water heating industry and so on. And we're actually quite ahead of some of our Caribbean partners. So one of the objectives is to capitalize on this. So that kind of tells you about the Smart Fund. It is being executed under three key components. Sorry, I'm going to tell you about the Smart Fund. No, it's being executed under three key components. Component one is promoting renewable energy and energy efficiency for SMEs. Component two is promoting renewable energy and energy efficiency for the public sector. And component three is capacity building and institutional strengthening. Now, as you would imagine, today we'll be focusing on component one and its subcomponents. So I began to tell you a bit about the Smart Fund, but I can give you a little bit more detail on what exactly it is. So as Dr. Holder rightly said, it is the second iteration of the fund. The first Smart Fund was actually back in 2011. It began February 2011, actually. And this fund is now building on the successes of that fund. As the data set suggests, however, as Dr. Holder said, we did not get the uptake for the small micro businesses that we were kind of keen to have. So we're hoping to, really focus on that this time around. The not shown in the slide is the financing of the fund. So the fund has a total budget of 45 million Barbados dollars. So it is a significant fund. That is provided by the IDB and the EU, IDB being Inter-American Development Bank and European Union. The financing is broken down into grant funding and loan funding. So $30 million approximately is in the form of a loan from the Inter-American Development Bank, and 30 million euros was provided by the European Union to support the fund. So this is what you really want to know now. How does this fund benefit me? What can you get from the fund? So the key thing that you may want to focus on are the energy efficiency and renewable energy subsidized loans that the fund offers. So for larger projects, you can access up to 2 million Barbados dollars through the Enterprise Growth Fund Limited. And for projects up to Barbados $150,000, you can access funding through Fund Access. The Enterprise Growth Fund and Fund Access are essentially the fund managers for the program. And you can use this money for energy efficiency, conservation projects, including lighting, appliances. So in practical terms, if you have a food business and you need a chiller or, a water heater, etc., or you want to change out your lighting, you can access the fund to do that if you are not in a position to do so with your current revenue. For distributed scale projects, these are larger projects, you can access the fund for the implementation of solar water heating. So this may be good for Airbnbs or those of you in the hotel sector, or again in the service sector where you use a lot of heating and you're currently relying on other forms of inefficient forms of water heating. You can access the fund, or you can get a renewable energy system like solar PV or a small wind system if your intention is really just to reduce your cost of electricity and make doing business more efficient for you. We are also aware that there's some of you who are already in the energy space as a business, and the fund also gives consideration for those of you desirous of seeking working capital. So if you want to manufacture or assemble energy efficient or renewable energy project, then you can approach the fund managers, contact the Ministry of Energy and say, I'm interested in also getting a loan to execute some of these projects. So as I said, electric mobility, electric vehicles, motorbikes, golf carts. If you have an idea and it's not necessarily listed here, or it's not coming to mind for me right now, still contact the fund, because if it is not on this slide, that doesn't mean that it's not something we wouldn't consider. There's also the technical assistance grant. This grant was for pre-feasibility studies. It's really for assistance in persons who were not sure what their business really required, or they wanted a little professional support before they went to the loan stage, then there is a technical assistance grant facility. At present, that facility is not operational. The funds are actually have been exhausted. But if you are interested in getting some support, that doesn't mean that you can't reach out, and we can still see what we can do for you in terms of guiding you through this process. And there's also an upcoming AC rebate facility that you can also contact the ministry, and they can guide you a bit more on that. So the benefits of the fund to you practically. I know that many of you, this is intuitive, but we just go through them just in case. So the main thing that you can do with the fund is reduce your energy costs. It's a major overhead for most businesses, particularly small businesses. It can weigh you down. And the key or the intention of the fund is actually to take some of that relief off you, in line with the original policy goal I originally mentioned, where we want to make energy more affordable for all. Also, you want to reduce or increase your security. So I have seen this play out practically as a benefit for persons who are, for example, running a small Airbnb or have a food business where their fridges and freezers are critical for them, because if there is a power outage, it could result in them losing stock and so on. So energy security, in the sense that if you have a backup system, or if you have a way of ensuring that you have reliable energy, even in the event where there's a small grid interruption, our utility grid is generally reliable, but things do happen. We are moving into hurricane season now, so I don't have to tell everyone what can happen. We've seen it now. Then that energy security can be critical for a business, and it's something that you could consider, because there's a value to that is, I don't want to say immeasurable, but it goes beyond the cost of a kilowatt hour. So we want to increase our your global and environmental sustainability by reducing emissions and pollution and subsidies. So this is for you now, not only benefiting from a cheaper form of energy, a more sustainable, but you're also doing a good for the community, the country, and the world by extension, by reducing your fossil fuel emissions, which we are a small island state. Let's face it, tourism is our business, and climate change is quite real, and we see the effects every year, particularly at this time. So, and as I mentioned, lowering the cost of energy and improving our competitiveness is also critical. So some of the areas that we really want to target with the fund. So it says, not necessarily who can apply, any business can apply, but some of the areas that we have really tried to focus on are tourism. Tourism is at the head, as you can see. We have had less than ideal success in the tourism sector before, so we're really trying to push the tourism sector to come forward. Let's see what we can do. Let's see, what support we can provide for that sector. Agro processing, the country really, we need to. We're safe if you can introduce renewable energy into the agricultural sector. You're saving foreign exchange twice, essentially. So this is also a critical sector for the country. So we're really keen to get farmers and persons making cassava flour, for example, accelerate persons in the sector will know better than they, so let me not try to assume, but agro processing, we are key to have persons come forward there as well. Transportation, the country, we all know, spends tens of millions of dollars annually on transportation alone. It is an imported cost. It is inflationary. If we can stabilize and reduce the cost of transportation, that is key. So that's why we're focusing there as well. So small businesses, taxi operators, etc., with where transportation is key. Even if you are in the food industry and you do deliveries, you may want to consider a efficient mode of transportation. Or you can make the case, well, I it is a supporting aspect of my business because I do need to get here or there, even though I am a hairdresser, for example, and I like to be more efficient as I travel, then, don't think that we are focusing that the transportation is the key to your income. But once it supports your business, we will consider it as well. Retail sector as well, the commercial sector, manufacturing. We know that the manufacturing sector has high overheads. So if we can reduce the cost of energy in the manufacturing sector, then that would be great as well. So I'd like to hear from some of you actually on your thoughts on what we can do. So in order to access us, as I said, you can reach out directly to the Ministry of Energy and Business, ask for the project execution unit, or you can reach out to the fund manager. We say fund manager, but it's actually, two, Fund Access, as well as Enterprise Growth Fund Limited. I should tell you that we have chosen this fund manager or these fund managers because of their experience with dealing particularly with small and micro businesses. We do recognize that sometimes the loan process may be a bit intimidating for some and so on. So that's why, especially through the commercial banking sector, and that's why these fund managers have been chosen. Their job is to work with you. And if they need something from you, they're not going to just shut the door on you. They will tell you what you need to have or how you can do it, work with you to get your financials in order, essentially, to access the funding. And the so just reach out to them, give them a call, tell them what your plans are. If need be, they will reach out to the ministry. They will probably reach out to myself as well, and we can take it from there. So presentation was, I guess, short and sweet. I hope that it has at least triggered some thought, and I am open to questions. I hope we have an interactive session, and I hope I can answer any questions you may have. Dr. Holder?
Yes, thank you very much, Marlon. Yes, it was short. We'll determine soon how sweet, depending on our ability to access these funds. That will determine how sweet it was.
Okay.
But thank you so much. It is time now for the conversation. Members, remember that you will have the opportunity now to pose your questions and our comments. We use the chat feature on the platform. So please go to the chat feature and you can jot your questions down, your comments, and we're going to go through them um, uh, systematically. Remember, for those who may have joined late, that the session is recorded, so you can go back and you can review it at your leisure and pleasure. We're looking at financing the green transition. We just had a presentation from Marlon on the Energy Smart Fund, and we want to encourage members to apply. Colleagues, we heard that there's some $45 million available in this second iteration. $45 million available in this second iteration of the fund. As I said, the first iteration that was launched in 2011 didn't have enough micro and small firms applying. Some $10 million, 10.2 to be precise, was distributed in that first phase to 27 businesses. Now, if you do the average, you'll know the average was around $370,000. So that was not a micro business and small business at all. So not enough micro and small firms applied, maybe, but for sure, not enough of them benefited from the first round of this fund. So we don't want that for the second round, and therefore we are encouraging businesses to apply. I'm sure that all of us on the call who have a business, SBA is nonprofit, we developmentally not we would apply too, because we can do with our AC units, being changed out. And I'm sure the other aspects of renewable energy that we can consider here, the bulbs, the LED lights, and that kind of thing. So I want to encourage businesses to really consider this this fund. So the first question, Marla, let's start the ball rolling. The first question is the 45 million. You've suggested that the $50,000 grant that I was going to encourage my members to apply for. You're telling me that grant portion is exhausted of this 45 million. Are we hearing correctly?
Unfortunately, yes, that is correct.
You see, and then you want to tell me that it's short and sweet, but that's not affecting the sweetness of the thing. Because we need them to impress on the ministry. I'm sure there may be a ministry official on the call. We need to impress on the ministry to really revisit that, because the grant, that $50,000 grant, in our view, is important to the process because it allows the business to at least access those grant resources, that they can get some sort of assessment done to help determine the extent of the loan that they may want to consider, the extent of the financing that they want to consider for the enterprise. So, hey, we may need to revisit that. But I want to get a sense of where we're at now in the fund in terms of distributions. The level of distribution so far, the level of, we know the capitalization was 45 million. If we can get a sense of, where we're at, the amount that has been disbursed, what is the time frame that's in place for the fund, because this is 2025, and we know that the second iteration was launched some time ago. So what is the time horizon that you're working with to be able to exhaust this $45 million? So we can maybe begin there. I see about 8 questions, so I'm going to go to the chat now, and let's get the
Sure.
conversation going. So
Yes.
let's start with that one, Marlon.
Right. So with respect to the fund, the loan facility that's available, there is still, well, I'm not sure what the exact figure is. There is still a significant amount of funding available. So I I must make the point that I wouldn't encourage people to get complacent and say, oh, well, I have time because, so I'm going to go to it, I'm going to get to that, or I'm going to ask the question in about 3 months because right now I'm dealing with my income tax or whatever, or, even though it is available, if you could, the sooner you move, the better is what I would say, because it sounds like a lot. And oftentimes we think, oh, we hear $45 million, that's going to be around for 5 years. It would be best to still move on it sooner rather than later. That would be my yeah.
Yeah, no, agreed. 45 million sounds like a lot, but it's not a lot really. If you think about a market of small and medium enterprises that we have, and that may want to really transition to green technologies and a green operation. So it's not a lot. So
Yeah.
quite agree with you. I'm seeing a question here from Sam about the process, the approval time. Can you share any light on that, from application, your application to the fund, and the process, and how long you anticipate it will take before the individual may be able to get an approval?
Right. Well, what I would say about the process and time is that it there's a level of variability in it, in the sense that it depends on not only the agency, but also depends on the applicant. So we try our best to make it clear about what is needed. So say, for example, you're interested in having an electric vehicle. The sooner you get the quotation for the vehicle, as well as your financial records to Fund Access or EGFL, the quicker they can process it. So I could say, well, if everything is in order, you should be done and dusted in a month or two. But then if you take 2, 3 months to submit something, then that time extends. So what we try to do is encourage you to have that initial discussion with the fund manager, make sure all your ducks are in a row. And if you have any questions, ask those questions and see how fast you can turn around. So, I mean, that example just for electric vehicles, if you're interested in a renewable energy system, the sooner you can decide what system you want and make that application would be a little bit more complicated because if I explain the process to you a bit, the fund manager will do a financial assessment of the applicant, and then they will send the information to the ministry, the project execution unit. And let's say, so practical terms now, I want a renewable energy system. I send my financials and request fund access. They say, okay, we're comfortable financially, we can work with Marlon. And then they send the application over to the ministry. But the information for the solar system is lacking, or there's something about it that doesn't add up, then that can cause a delay. We wouldn't throw the application, but then we'd have to reach out to the client for more information. So it is important to have quotation for the system, as well as at least basic information on your solar system along with your application. So when you're applying and sending your information into Fund Access or EGFL, make sure that you have your information and make sure you're clear about what you want and you have information from your supplier. And the process should be very smooth.
Yeah, but I mean, in terms of historical data, though, what is the kind of time frame that the average loan application would take?
Right. So the ministry has established a time frame of 1 to 2 months as a baseline. So we try to work within that time. I know that is a little longer than
Like
commercial
going to a
bank,
financial institution.
going to a financial institution, but because our process is admittedly a little longer because of the two-step with the approval from the fund manager and the ministry, that is the give and take in it. But the sweetener in it is that the interest rate for these loans is 3.75%. So you could go to the commercial bank and pay a little bit more. You could maybe take a week or two and have a loan that you can afford, an investment you can afford with the fund.
Yeah, my hand not up yet, because I think that much can be done to reduce that 2 month time frame, Marlon. Because I know that in very practical terms, when I hear 2 months, that 2 months can translate to 3 in very practical terms. So I'm saying that we have to, we would want, I would think, to do a little better there. So
Well,
Sam, I hope
sorry.
that your question has been answered relative to the definition of a medium enterprise. All companies we heard in the presentation can apply. Doesn't matter if you're micro, small, medium, large. All companies can apply. When we talk about SMEs and so on, we tend to use the definition in the Small Business Development Act of what a small firm is, in terms of their asset size, their number of employees, the annual revenue, and that kind of thing. These are the definitions used to help us understand, how to categorize a firm. But any firm, any size firm can actually apply to the Energy Smart Fund as confirmed by Marlon. Don, interesting question. I'm not so sure Marlon is saying this. Can businesses operating from home with no separation between the office, home, and the actual business apply? I would say short answer, yes. Marlon did mention that any business you can apply, even if you're sharing a part of that infrastructure with your home, any business can apply. And similarly, Kevin, your question about does the Energy Smart Fund facilitate financing small businesses in the renewable energy sector? Of course. Yep, that point was made as well. Yes. So, Marty, you want to say anything there, or we can move to the next one?
No, you can move on. That's correct. Perfectly correct.
So, those right, correct. How long would a business have to be established to apply? That's a question, Marlon, for you.
So
Does it matter?
ideally 1 year. We have made some exceptions where a business was been around for 6 months, so on, where we're still willing to work with those persons, but you don't necessarily have to have been in operation for 5 years to apply.
Right. So
The,
at least a
the
year.
key is that, yes, the key is that we obviously don't want a situation where somebody runs out after hearing my presentation, registers a business, and they say, well, the important thing is that you are serious about business.
Right.
And I assume that your members are just that.
Yes. So at least a year, we're hearing, you should be in operation at least a year. At least the fund manager will be
At
satisfied
least.
with that.
Yes.
Yeah, okay. So here's Allison's question now about a PV that she has, huh? So she has an existing PV system. It never worked properly. So can you access the grant to fix it?
Well, as I said, the grant is not available presently. So, but if she maybe wants to do some upgrading or have a new system, she can access a loan
Yeah.
to, yeah.
Three point
The
seven seven five percent is the interest rate you're saying.
correct.
I mean, it is attractive. No, 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 not gonna kid you. It is an attractive interest rate. However, we need to work on the process, the underwriting process a bit, to encourage, persons to actually want to be a part of it. And the AC rebate facility, because this was mentioned in your presentation, that if you have ACs, all ACs, in your home office, on your plant somewhere, if you have all ACs, they're supposed to be a part of this that you can apply to trade in those old ACs for new air conditioning units. How soon do you think that part of the project is going to be operationalized?
That is correct. So we're at the stage at the moment where we haven't launched the facility or the subcomponent, I should say, because there is an environmental consideration that we are ensuring that we are on top of. And with all AC units, we don't want a situation where they are disposed of incorrectly and the gases which are not ozone friendly are released and are, become pollutants. So we have a environmental plan in place where the intention is to capture that gas as part of the trade-out process. We're going to capture the gases and switch out your AC so that the environment isn't harmed. Um, as soon as those steps are finalized, we will launch a facility. I don't know if I will maybe come back on again to announce it, but I can't, unfortunately, at this moment give you an exact timeline, and I don't want to venture there and then be incorrect. But
You
that is
think
where
it's
we're
gonna you
at.
think it's gonna be this year? Is it gonna be this year in your view,
I hope
2025?
so. Yes, I hope so.
Yeah, because I mean, I really was hoping that it would have been launched already because the days are so hot. The summer is expected to be extremely hot. For businesses that you have air conditioning units not working properly, you want to change them out. Here's a fantastic opportunity to access a new AC. For your business, make it a little easier in your operations and certainly even your home office.
Yeah.
And this is not only for businesses I gather, this is for individuals too, the AC rebate program.
No, actually, Smartphone One was for
Mhm.
individuals, but we really wanted to focus on businesses this time around. So this
The,
is
the, the, the AC rebate
for
program for
businesses.
businesses.
Yes, yes.
Okay. All right. Don is asking, can um several borrowers come together and have a joint application?
Yes, certainly we don't have an issue with that. What I would say to Dawn is that it is something that they should engage the fund manager about. Because as you can appreciate, like with any other type of loan, if you go for a mortgage with your significant other, both persons will be assessed and so on. But if you view that as the way for you to afford it jointly, then I would encourage it.
Okay. Fallon is asking interestingly about recycling. What are your thoughts about recycling? Example, reusing recycling glass bottles, and the like as energy efficient operations.
But I would actually like to hear a bit more. So perhaps in that case, he probably should reach out to the ministry. And
Mm-hmm.
the reason why I say that is if the recycling process is something that he's already undertaken and he wants to find a more efficient way of doing it, then that could be considered. Or if the recycling itself can lead to a reduction in energy downstream, then we can also consider that as well. So I really would like to hear a bit more, something that can be different.
Yeah, but I mean, you're open to innovative concepts and innovative ideas. I mean, you shared some of the traditional ones that we know about, putting the PV panels on your roof, or in other parts of the property. Electric vehicles, for example, there's some retailers, distributors that can consider, electric vehicles as a part of their greening approach and transition and so on. But then there's some other areas, some other innovative concepts that I would like to see that the fund is amenable to consider as well. And recycling is one of them. Because if you have a recycling plant, you want to encourage it to, be a bit more efficient, energy efficient. And so applying to the fund could be an option as well.
Yeah.
Right. So yes, Fallon, the suggestion is reach out to the unit if it is that you're interested and have a conversation. Right. A couple more questions, but I'm not so sure
Oh,
if you're able to see. There's one here from Jonathan. I'm gonna ask you to read that because it's a lengthy one.
yeah. Okay.
So if you can read that and give us your thoughts.
Um, I have a correction to make actually. Sorry, I'm just being corrected, scolded by the unit. Apparently, the fund, the AC rebate facility is for households as well. So
For
that's good
households as
news.
well.
That's a sweetener. Yes.
Okay, but
Yeah.
that see that is sweetener now. So
Yes.
that has sweetened the pot a little bit,
Yeah.
so
So
that those on the call
yeah, 2 units are
can
available for
access.
households and 5 for
Right.
businesses.
Okay, good. So
Right.
householders can apply for the AC rebate. It's just a
Yes.
matter of you letting us know when it's going to be operationalized, that we can get the message out there and let persons know. Because when the fund, the second iteration was launched and that was mentioned, I will admit, we did get a few calls about it, querying when is this going to be going to start. I did reach out at one point to one of the fund managers inquiring about it, to realize that no, it hadn't started yet. But I know that there was interest there. We did get some persons querying that, because it's going to help overall with the energy policy of the administration. Yes.
Yes,
So
definitely.
there is demand and there's interest in that one. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, yes.
Yeah.
You asked
Okay.
me to take a look at
Yes.
Jonathan's question.
We have a rather interesting question here from Jonathan. Jonathan Curtin. So you can take a look at that. And I am seeing another interesting one here.
Yes. Okay. So
Some a
I'll
point from
read it for the
Shamar.
yes for the
Go
benefit.
ahead.
So Jonathan asks, how does the fund intend to address the current challenges related to the issuance of ELPA licenses and grid connection offers, particularly for stakeholders aiming to develop solar or battery energy storage systems? Additionally, are such businesses eligible to apply for the fund? So what I would say to Jonathan is that the challenges currently being experienced are not being addressed by the fund specifically, but they are being addressed by the ministry. This is now a little bit away from the fund, but I can let you know that the Ministry of Energy and Business is working with all the stakeholders in the industry, including Light and Power and the Fair Trading Commission, to establish a framework for the introduction of battery storage. And there is a procurement process that will be undertaken soon where the Barbados Light and Power and the government of Barbados intend to introduce storage to facilitate the execution of these solar systems and the deployment of renewable energy. Everything has to work hand in hand in order for everyone to get the best outcome. So we cannot continue with a situation where there is stagnation of the industry. So the fund specifically is not necessarily working on um, the challenges with the license, but we are supporting people who are interested, for example, in if you want to have a loan for battery storage. So, we can consider that. If you are if you have a system set up and you um, don't mind storage to help facilitate your access to the grid, we can look at that. You can make an application and say, well, I want to get some storage so that my system is now eligible for access to the grid. Then we can look at it from that perspective.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Yeah,
Very, very
interesting.
good. And has, I mean, outside of the fund now, has the ministry looked at how we're going to treat to the disposal of these batteries?
Well, everything I say everything the ministry does
We are
is
part of the ministry,
yeah,
anyway.
yes, whether I like it or not. Been there too long. So every project that is executed, there's always consideration for the environmental impacts. Everything executed on the framework, every pilot, every initiative, Smart Fund 2, before this was a public sector smart energy program. Even in this iteration of the Smart Fund, there are three components as I would have mentioned. So I didn't get into component 2 or component 3, but component 3 is capacity building. And if you look at any project that is executed by the ministry, there's always a component 3, and it is always about capacity building and environmental support. So in the public sector smart energy program, for example, we have reached out to entities like Sustainable Barbados Recycling Center and looked at a broad way of ensuring that the industry on a whole knows how we're going to dispose of batteries or repurpose batteries, dispose of solar PV systems. In some cases, we've even looked at situations where they just can't be facilitated on island. So we look again, for example, the AC rebate facility. When we collect that gas, we don't intend to keep it on island. We actually intend to export it. So all those things are considered in every project we do. So it's not different from batteries.
Right. And
All the
that's
components.
component 3, which is the capacity building component.
Yes.
Just refresh us again. Component 2 was what? Because we've been talking about component 1, which is really the financing bit through the Energy Smart Fund. But what's component 2 again of the overall policy?
So you're really testing me. Component 2 is
And I have a
component
good
2.
memory, so I recall it.
Yeah. It is focused on renewable energy and energy efficiency as well, but it's for public sector. So the
Okay.
government has to lead by example, and that's where they are also doing just what they're suggesting businesses to do for themselves.
Right. Okay. So component 2 focuses on the public sector. All right.
Yes.
Another question from me has to do with our infrastructure, Marlon, for the electric vehicles. So we've been promoting electric vehicles. Government through one of its budgetary statements some time ago reduced the duties and so on electric vehicles, and obviously trying to incentivize that in the sector, right, in the country. But
Yes.
as we drive around, we're not seeing that the infrastructure is built out enough with the charging ports available at, at key locations and so on. So I would think that the Energy Smart Fund would consider proposals for this kind of project, correct?
Yes.
Yes.
Sorry
Yes.
about that.
Okay, good.
Yes.
So so
So
so, so
yes,
the
yeah.
question is, shouldn't the fund now be focused on not just waiting for applications to come in from business persons and so on and firms, but shouldn't the fund be looking to maybe encourage even mobilize firms in key areas to help with the infrastructure build out so we can really support the emergence of our EV industry in Barbados.
Yes. I have mixed feelings about the question, and I'll be honest with you why. The initial build out of the charging infrastructure for electric vehicles was actually private sector driven heavily. The company, I Okay, I won't call any name, but
I know the company. That's all right.
right, yes,
I know
yes.
the company that
Yeah,
started it. Yes.
yes. Was very proactive in installing a lot of charging stations, and I'm sure that it was an adjunct to their business. They were selling vehicles, so it made sense for them to have a way for persons to charge those vehicles. So, and that is required. With respect to public sector transport now and the wider vision for the country, the Our Transport Board, for example, has invested heavily in electric buses, and they have also installed their own charging facilities because that is important. Uh, at the personal level or at the business level, what I have personally observed is that while the deployment of charging facilities at locations has kind of dwindled, a lot of people are actually installing at homes or at their place of business. So there are a lot of businesses who are um, they recognize that their employees have a lot of electric vehicles and they're proactive in doing that installation. So on that end, if a business does contact the fund and say, well, we're interested in setting up some charging stations at our business for our employees, great. Or I'm a small business, I have one vehicle already, but I want to put in a charging station, and that's fine as well. I think it's the overall growth of the charging will be a combination of private sector initiative and government support. So that's how I see it.
Yeah. So the partnership is what you would recommend. Yes.
Yes.
So
Yeah.
the pull push factors that must operate in tandem in order to
Correct.
build out the industry.
Correct.
Yeah. Okay. Any additional questions before we wind up our discussion this morning? Looking at the chat, there was a question about the interest rate. Yes. Based on what we heard, it's 3.75%. So yes, confirming that the interest rate is indeed 3.75%. Remember that we're talking about $45 million, and they still have a significant portion of this on their balance sheet, and they would like to get rid of it, right, Marlon? They would like to
Yes.
get rid of it. So we're seeking our small business sector in particular to really consider, the submission of applications to help with the greening of your business. As I said at the very beginning, the fact is, in the first iteration, we didn't have a lot of submissions coming from micro and small firms. And so we really want to encourage this for the second iteration, because we know that businesses need to retrofit the operations. We moving from the reliance on fossil fuels, and in line with the government's overall policy of becoming carbon neutral, and really becoming a more um, green country, if we can use that terminology. Yes. So the Allison is asking, the 3.75 rate is both electric and hybrid vehicles. And that's 3.75 rate on the loan, isn't it, from the smart fund, right, Marlon?
No. Yes. Yes.
That's right. So the loan from the smart fund carries an interest rate of 3.75%.
Yes. But, if I can add to that, there has been a lot of discussion over supporting hybrid vehicles. Remember at the beginning of my presentation, I said that the policy was actually to go to a carbon neutral state where we are trying to get rid of fossil fuel consumption. So
Mhm.
we really are pushing electric vehicles strictly for that reason.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. And someone wants to know if they can contact you outside the session. Of course.
Yes.
Of course, Marlon is contactable, to use your word, outside of the
Yes.
webinar. Right. Marlon
Yes.
Moore, business specialist with the Sustainable Energy Investment Program. This is a program administered by the Ministry of Energy and Business. He's been our guest today as we've been looking at financing the green transition and improving the access to the Energy Smart Fund. We're going to place in the chat now a link and ask you, please, if you have the time to stay, give us another just 5 minutes of your time to complete this short survey on the session today. I want to reiterate, colleagues, that, oftentimes we hear small firms complain about the access to finance or the lack thereof, the challenges in accessing finance. And we thought that this particular fund, it has a very attractive interest rate, and it is for benevolent causes, if you will, an area that we think can really contribute to the overall development of our country. And maybe not benevolent, but the purpose for the fund is commendable. It will help in the overall energy policy and the role of the energy policy for Barbados. And so we encourage businesses to consider applying to the fund. All right. Again, the session was recorded, and therefore you'll have the opportunity to review it at your leisure and pleasure. Marlon, I give you the final word before we wrap up. While I get ready to share my screen, I give you the final word, Marlon, before we conclude.
Well, let me say thank you once again to you, Dr. Holder, and your team for facilitating this presentation today and inviting me to make this presentation. And thank you to the Ministry of Energy and Business as well. And I hope that it did offer some insight for those of you who didn't know about the fund. Maybe you're thinking about it now. Please do reach out. Yes, reach out. You can reach out to the ministry. You can ask for me directly. They will put you in contact with me if you don't already know how to reach me and so on. It's not a problem, and support is available. Move swiftly if you are thinking about doing more than one thing. For example, like you're saying, well, I need $10,000 to do a lighting retrofit, and I might want to do something next year. So let me just wait till next year and then come one time. Don't do that. Go now. And you can always think about coming back later once there's funding available. So yeah, my final message is move with alacrity. Thank you.
Move with alacrity. Yes, yes. Move with efficiency.
Yes.
That's right. Thank you very
Even
much.
better.
Now, colleagues, on the screen, I've shared my screen. You'll see a flyer on the screen for our webinar to be held on June 18th. This is going to be in your inboxes from tomorrow. But I want to use this moment to share with you that in light of all the conversations and discussions around exporting, internationalizing our firms, considering other markets, we've collaborated with the Caribbean Export Development Agency to host this session on the theme Understanding Market Intelligence. We're actually going to have a demonstration on how to use trade information. So I want you to prepare yourselves for this. The expert, Mrs. Michaela Franklin at CEDA, she's going to come on and she's actually going to walk us through using various tools that we can access data, information to help us export our products, our services in other markets. So information on the markets, how to enter those markets, what are the goods that are commonly traded in those markets, what is the size of a particular market, what is the value of a particular market. All kind of trade data is going to be displayed in this session on June 18th. Again, 11 a.m. to 12 noon. We're asking you to mark your calendars, and when the information comes out, please register early and be a part of this session. This webinar is going to conclude our webinar series for this financial year 2024-2025, and we really want for you to participate, especially those who are thinking about exporting to various markets and you want to know a bit more about those markets, how to access the various markets. So please take note of this date, June 18th, 11 a.m. We'll take a look at understanding market intelligence and using the various tools that are available to access the trade data. All right, take a note of that, please. Diarize it, keep it handy. So thank you so much. Thank you again, Marlon, and the folks at the Ministry of Energy and Business for the support of today's webinar. We really appreciate all that you have done to make today possible. Thank you again, members of the association, friends and colleagues who are part of our webinar series. We look forward to seeing you in June for the final session for this financial year, and also for the new year to come, all of the activities that we have planned. Have a good day, all. Please remember to complete the feedback survey. Let us know your thoughts about the session today and how we can improve as we go forward. So once again, God bless you all. See you on the next occasion. Have a good day, everyone. Bye-bye.